Today, I'm at Tokyo Haneda International Airport, flying Japan Airlines Economy Class on their Boeing 7879 Dreamliner to New Delhi. Even though it's the first day of the year-end holiday rush, security and immigration were surprisingly smooth. Terminal 3 is equipped with Smith's detection scanners, so there's no need to remove laptops during screening. After clearing security, I stopped by the Cathay Pacific Lounge, which I personally prefer over the JAL Lounge. It's noticeably less crowded, the food selection is better, and the staff are consistently warm and welcoming. As usual, I went for their dan dan noodles paired with the lounge's signature French toast and of course a cold beer. They also had a good selection of bar snacks, including cheese and ham, which I paired with a glass of their 2023 Stratum Sauvignon Blanc from the bar. The wine was light and refreshing, with a clean, crisp taste that worked really well with the richness of the cheese and the saltiness of the ham. It was an easy, enjoyable pairing, perfect before a flight. The lounge overlooks the tarmac, where I spotted an Air India 787-8 arriving from Delhi. That flight would depart about 30 minutes before mine, and we'd cross paths again in Delhi around 10 hours later. Finally, it was time to board, so I made my way to the gate. Despite being Tokyo's main hub, Haneda's international terminal is fairly compact, and even the farthest gate is just about a 10-minute walk away. Today's gate, 145, was conveniently close to the lounge, less than a 2-minute walk away. And here it is, the 787-9 Dreamliner I'll be flying today. It's finally boarding time. My seat for this flight was 45A, a window seat in the emergency exit row. While this is usually a paid seat, I was able to select it at no extra cost thanks to my JAL premium status. The biggest advantage of an emergency exit row is the generous legroom, especially important on a 10-hour flight. By the way, JAL's 787 Economy Class features a more relaxed 242 seat layout instead of the industry standard 333 configuration. With fewer seats across the cabin, this setup offers noticeably more width and a more comfortable feel, and JAL is the only airline in the world to use this layout on the Dreamliner. It's not a major issue, but the window is set slightly behind the seat rather than right beside you. Just be careful not to keep turning to look outside, or you'll end up with a sore neck before you realize it. And after a relatively long taxi, it was finally time for takeoff. Buckle up for more airline and travel reviews. Subscribe to the Tokyo Guy and don't miss the next takeoff. Once the seatbelt sign was switched off, I headed straight to the restroom. Easy access to the lavatories is another small but useful perk of sitting in the emergency exit row. Shortly after, the cabin crew came through with snacks and drinks. I chose Japanese green tea, something I know I'll be missing during this trip. About an hour later, it was time for the in-flight meal. I chose the Japanese option, sukiyaki with seasoned rice. The sukiyaki had a mild, sweet and savory flavor with a comforting soy-based taste. Of course, it wasn't the best sukiyaki I've had, but for airplane food, it was satisfying and enjoyable at 35,000 feet. I especially liked the pumpkin salad, which wasn't overly sweet. The miso soup was quite simple and a bit bland, but knowing I'd be away from Japanese flavors for a while, I still enjoyed it. Once the trays were collected, the cabin lights were dimmed. With a connecting flight ahead in Delhi, I decided to get some rest and try to sleep. The in-flight entertainment was fairly limited, so I'd recommend bringing your own content on board. That said, like most airlines, the moving map was packed with interesting information and was fun to follow throughout the flight. About 2 hours before landing, a light meal was served, consisting of a chicken sandwich and a cup of yogurt. Even though I wasn't particularly hungry, the chicken was surprisingly tender, and I finished the sandwich in no time. Before landing in Delhi, I caught a glimpse of a beautiful sunset outside the window, with warm colors slowly fading as we descended toward the city. The seatbelt signs came back on, and we touched down in Delhi after just under 10 hours in the air. While there were a few bumpy moments along the way, the flight was overall quite smooth. Thanks to the on-time arrival, I had plenty of time to connect to my Air India domestic flight to Kolkata. Combined with Japan Airlines' comfortable economy hard product, the 10-hour flight felt much shorter than it actually was. JAL's consistency really stands out, and this flight was no exception. Definitely an airline that remains at the top of my list when flying. By the way, this was nearly my 10th time flying into India, and with each visit everything feels more organized, likely reflecting the country's continued economic growth. Thanks for watching. Buckle up for more airline and travel reviews. Subscribe to the Tokyo Guy and don't miss the next takeoff.